Hi, I'm Albert. Thanks for watching. These are vlogs about nothing. And so right now I want to talk about protesting, right? And how it is a fundamental, inalienable right that you have, right? And it is protected by the First Amendment in the Constitution. Links in the description below if you have like any follow-up questions and or just curious about some of the subject matter. I know that oftentimes I'll be watching videos and then I'll look in the links and then I'll actually find more information that pertains to what I just watched, right? And I think that's a cool thing. And so protesting, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. So a way not to do it is a way that a National Guardsman sergeant was doing, and currently today, as of this morning, was convicted of a federal crime and sentenced to 47 months in federal prison. That way was the participation in the January 6th riots. And so this particular case, again, links in the description below if you want to read the full stories, but the National Guardsman sergeant, former National Guardsman sergeant, participated in the January 6th riots. He was wanted by federal authorities since November. He has been on the run. It is now April, and he turned himself in. He's now in custody and serving out his sentence. And so, you know, there's a good example of how not to protest. So nearly 1,200 people since January 6th, or as a result of the January 6th riots, have been charged of crimes. Some of them have received sentences that have ranged from just a couple days all the way on up to 22 years. And so this particular example falls somewhere right on the lower end of that example. That is not how you protest. You do not arm yourself, walk on over to any public space and demand that you're clearly violent and just, you know, sort of chaotic kind of presentation to addressing a problem that is also chaotic and problematic, right? Our government isn't perfect. Our world is not perfect. It is up to us as constituents of our respected communities and governments to make a change. And again, making a change is not, you know, putting a shotgun on your arm and walking down to the building where there could be collateral damage that ranges anywhere from innocent civilians to the people that you're trying to get the message across with, right? Nobody wants that kind of team member on their team. It's definitely a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest when you work for the federal government and then protest the federal government in a manner of which isn't indicative of how things can be done in a diplomatic way, perhaps, in a mature fashion, without the use of gathering dozens of your armed buddies to make a statement, right? The statement you were trying to make during January 6th was lost. It was absolutely lost because of the collateral damage. The innocent people that were all hurt because of your decision to protest, right? And so that's one way not to protest. There's an interesting article in the link in the description below that talks about new ethics versus political correctness. And again, just to be clear, protesting is your First Amendment right, just as it is to establish and or practice a religion. It is our constitutional right to protest our government, and we should regularly exercise that constitutional right. But again, not in a way that makes us look like we're a part of the problem, which again, I'd argue violent behavior is a big part of modern day problems. And so a way to protest is to, there are marches, there are sit-ins, there are boycotts, there are strikes. You know, I find the labor industry fascinating in this country as when it comes to workers' rights. And I would say that I am pro-union in that the best jobs, the most stable jobs come from areas in industry where workers are protected, because private companies really have no interest in adding benefits that cost them money. It's really not even a question about like improving workers' lives in that regard. It's about doing their mandate, which is to make money. And so there needs to be other groups and or institutions that fundamentally protect you and I, and that protect us from the exploitation that is arguably mandated by all companies in terms of their process to want to make money over anything else. That is their job, and that's what they're doing. And so, again, there are ways to protest and there are ways not to protest. The January 6th riots were not a way to protest, and writing letters is even a peaceful mean of protest, right? Oftentimes, people think that their words and or thoughts and or beliefs don't matter, but there are people out there, including myself, who are genuinely concerned about the world's issues and who want to be a bigger part of trying to help solve some of these problems. And I think solving all of these problems begins first and foremost with a conversation. And that's why I have these conversations with you, so that maybe you can take these conversations and have them with your friends and your peers and try and talk about how we can improve the things around us without becoming a part of the problem, right? Many, many different ways to do that, including taking a look at the link in the description below and having a laugh at some of these euphemisms as they're defined, politically correct euphemisms, to be clear. And anyways, there's also an excellent article down there written by this woman named Natalia, and she discusses new ethics versus political correctness. It's a free read. You don't have to download anything. It takes like 5 minutes. And there's some pretty thought-provoking stuff in there in terms of the difference between pandering to somebody's feelings as opposed to speaking the truth. And, you know, I gotta tell you, feelings do get hurt, right? Feelings will be hurt sometimes. Is it justified? Not all the time, but sometimes it possibly could be. And so that's where I leave you. Thanks so much for watching the videos.